Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Ooh, these prices are so big. These prices are getting bigger. Oh, well, we're going to be talking about money today, or somewhat economic stuff. So, I had an economics channel. I got rid of it because I realized I didn't quite exactly know what I was talking about, and I didn't want to spend time on it so I kind of withdrew from that whole thing. It was a nice ride while it was lasting. It was taking up way too much of my time, my free time, and I think that it was. I'd come to the decision that it was taking up too much of my life, and it was affecting the quality of my other content, and so I kind of tapered back on that. If you were wondering what happened to the Fuzzy Finance channel, that's what happened to it. But we're going to go back into a little bit about money this time around, because there was a record broken, and that record was a fursuit auction. Now, the last time we had that happen, I covered that on this channel in a video up there. It was called Furries versus Gamers, Exuberant Auctions Abound. And in that one, I talked about how furries were talking about how there was like a fursuit that was for $13,000 or was $15,000-ish that had sold in auction by, I think it was Mixed Candy Studios, I think it was, who was that one. And basically, a lot of furries were going like, oh, furries are spending too much on our hobby. And like my counterpoint in that video was that there was a auction that occurred at the time, and this was like 3 years ago, well before coronavirus, where basically they had bought a CSGO gun skin that was signed by a pro gamer, the virtual skin for a virtual gun, and they bid on it, and the biggest bid was $62,700 and some odd dollars. It was a lot of money. So I'm like, gamers are like over here going, hold my beer. Hold my beer. You guys think you're spending a lot on your hobby? Let me enjoy this beer here for a moment. Now, we have a new record, but the gamers are still holding their beer, okay? Gamers from 3 years ago, their auction of $62,000 is still greater than this record, but this record came close. It was a good old round $50,000 for a slot in the dealer's den for a Zuri Studios fursuit, custom made and all that. So, that was a new record for a fursuit being auctioned on the dealer's den. That happened, and so of course this opened up the conversation once again with fursuits, prices, and people's concerns about fursuit inflation. Inflates you and makes you nice and big and round. Yes, I did that with the frickin' title. I'm sorry, internet. Hey, Racy Raccoon can make good memes sometimes, but he never makes them intentionally. It's always the unintentional memes that he makes that are catchy and funny. Never the ones he does on purpose. The ones he does on purpose are awful, and I already went over that. But, so back on the topic, what we're talking about. So, there can be some concerns about increasing in fursuit costs and buying a fursuit. And that concern can seem quite justified when in auction sites, the amount of money chasing fursuits has increased quite a bit. Here we see $45,300 for a partial by Tempa Creations. Wait, a partial? $45,000? Wait, that's not American dollars. That's NOK. Okay. Whew! Had me worried there for a moment. So, non-American dollars. So, I guess it's, it's like 1,000, 2,000. Partials go for usually about that much. $5,397.74 for a partial? That's, by the way, this partial is pre-made. You don't get to choose the character. You don't get to choose customization. It's there. This is what you're getting. Now it's nice. It's quality. I like it. It's a very nice. She looks like a very nice kitty. Very nice cat. She's got the very sexy eyes. She's got the very, very nice eyes, right? And her hair, I love that hair tuft in the front. It's nice. So, but you get like a tail, and you get hand paws, and you get the face. So it's basically like my, it's what they call a mini partial, or what they're calling a mini partial. So it's basically like mine. You got hand paws, you got a face, you got a tail. So my tail's down here somewhere. So you have those things, right? So seeing this, a lot of furries can be concerned. Now, I will say this, yes, prices are inflating. Particularly in the United States of America, and even probably in some portions of the world. The reason that inflation happens is there's a multitude of things that can cause price differences and things like that. A lot of people are familiar with supply and demand. Those are usually the microeconomic factors. And what I call microeconomic factors is that if you're looking at a community that's insular, and the furry fandom can be quite insular, where you have, products. Furry products are usually handcrafted, usually artisanally created. Even our works of fiction are artisanally created. So, our works can be more expensive than the mainstream. Like our art, but in some ways also cheaper. Like customized artwork is usually seen as a very big and exuberant expense for many corporations or many things like that. Creative works are seen as a luxury item, and people pay luxury item prices for such things. But in the furry fandom, where we're, trying to create and content between our community, we can sometimes temper those costs. Sometimes because we decide not to charge too much because we're trying to work within the community. We know that we don't want only the super rich to be able to afford our works. But at the same time, when you open things open for auction like this, people can be free to, throw their wads of cash around. So the big thing that you have to understand about auctions is that the supply and demand aspects of the microeconomics does not apply to auctions. It does not apply to auctions. And I will be right back. I just thought of something to give you an example of why that is the case. And I got to get it off the wall. Hold on, do it live. Okay. You see, this thing right here has been cursing my wall throughout the pandemic. And I got this thing at an auction. I paid a pretty penny for this, but you know what you can do? You can do it as a tax write-off, okay? So you keep track of the money that you spend on things. This money went obviously to the ALS Foundation, because you know who it is, it's Dog Bomb, right? So this I got at an auction. Now, if you were to buy something like this and it would be mass made or even just quality made, you might get it for like $100 or so, or you might spend $120 or something. At a charity auction, you're going to be spending a lot more than that. And I won't tell you. If you want to know how much it was, you could probably go to Furthermore site. Maybe they have information on that, because it is a record holder for the most thing on there. But as I said, I was feeling the moment. I wanted to, have that. And so, you get into the thing where it's like you're giving money to charity, right? It's a charity auction. You don't, you don't try to do economic BS at a charity auction. You just don't. You go, what money can I put and help to the charity to help, right? And you don't show it off, which is why, even though I've had that for over a year now, I didn't show it off here until this moment, because it's an important part of the conversation, right? If Now, obviously, this is not a charity auction in this case. This is a auction for a fursuit slot. But when you're talking about a reasonable price, when you're talking about an auction, the creator is putting themselves out there. And if the creator has done normal work, they've worked their way up to the point where their name and their brand has quality to it, and people are willing to pay for quality in that auction. Now, they will do their normal buying and selling as well, but usually they'll try to be competitive with other fursuit makers because, fursuit makers, the more fursuit makers there are, the more supply there is of fursuits, the more prices go down. So if you're worried about prices of fursuits going up, now obviously there is a minimum, a bare minimum, like you have, the supplies and stuff like that to have to go into creating a fursuit. So of course, there's going to be a bare minimum that any reasonable person would charge for a fursuit, but they also want to be competitive with other fursuit makers around them. For instance, my partial didn't cost $5,200. It cost, 1/10 of that. It cost around $500, $500 to $600. I paid for some of the materials, right? And then I paid $500. I paid for the materials. I gave some of the materials, and then I paid them $500 for labor. And this was back in 2013. This thing is almost 10 years old now. But it's quality. It's lasted, and it's not fallen apart on me yet. I mean, obviously, there's some little things that go loose every once in a while, but it still fits rather well, and it's still holding its shape, and it's still a quality fursuit, and it's a character that I like. And this is where I'm going to kind of go on to this tangent about, particularly to the younger furries. If you are worried about the prices of materials, things like that inflating, you have to understand that right now we are going through a primal shift in the workforce. We're going through a primal shift in a lot of things. So we are seeing the cost of labor going up. So you will have more money coming in most cases, I do believe. But I think that because of inflation, more money is going to be chasing more goods, or more, as long as our society maintains a good balance, inflation won't go too far away from us, but we're going to be dealing with a rocky road probably for a few years. That's my guess, right? And that's the thing about economics, is that people can only make guesses, based on their experience and based on their reading of history and, based on certain factors. And the funny thing is that when you're dealing with the front lines like this, there's a lot of speculation, and that's all you can do is speculate. But if there is inflation on the way, which there's also this concept of macroeconomics, which is how much money is being pumped into the system. You have to think about it like this. One of the two factors is that there is a shortening of supply of quality fursuit makers. Quality fursuit makers, there are less quality fursuit makers than demand for fursuits, so that's going to cause an increase in that supply-demand microeconomic thing. But at the same time, we're dealing with a macroeconomics, situation where there's just more money around. We had stimulus checks. We have, people saving up because of the fears of the coronavirus. We had a bunch of money being welled up because of people hoarding money and stuff like that. No, understand this: the Roaring '20s happened following a pandemic, right? The 1918 Spanish flu was followed by the Roaring '20s, right? So similarly, we're probably dealing with a similar situation there. Does that mean there's a Great Depression coming in 10 years? The Lord only knows. History rhymes sometimes, but hopefully people will know. Hopefully people will learn from previous mistakes. You never know, though. So always be prepared. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, etc., etc. What I could say is this: this boom of there's going to be a boom of fiscal activities, which is going to cause increase in in demand because people have money to spend. They're going to try to spend it, and there's going to be less time and factors to spend it on. So that's going to cause prices to go up, right? Because there's, new things aren't being created really because there was the whole logistics tie-ups. So, and so let's just keep it simple and just say like furries, right? Furries haven't been going to conventions. You know what happens when furries go to conventions? Money gets spent. Money gets spent from furries' pockets and go out into the ether, right? And circulate amongst the community and go to the hotels and go to the businesses and the local district. It leaves the furry fandom and goes out into the ether of like Pennsylvania and all this stuff. So when furries go to conventions and furries go to things, money leaves the fandom. It goes to the charities. It goes to the businesses. It goes to the hotels. It goes to the Ubers, right? It goes out. It leaves the system. It goes to the airplane companies or to gas or to, for changing the oil in your car if you're commuting that way. Money leaves your pocket because you're spending money to go hang out with other furries at conventions or at other gatherings. And because that money is being spent, it's not being built up. But because of coronavirus, furries have built up all this money. They have all this money, and they're building it up, and they're building it up, and they're building it up, and they want to spend it. So that is what's going to cause macroinflation. There is more money chasing less goods. So because there's more money chasing less goods, the people are going to want to blow their wad and say, I'm going to buy this thing because I want to get it, right? So there's going to be this kind of thing going on. Now, there's a caveat to this, and that is spending like this can't happen forever. People can build up wealth and build up wealth and build up wealth, but even the most wealthy can only spend so much. This is not something that someone can do multiple times unless they're a billionaire, and I don't know no billionaire furries, right? Spending $50,000 on a fursuit is not something that a majority of people can do multiple times. And even if, here's the thing, even if there was a billionaire that was interested in fursuit collectioning, right? They're not going to want to buy two Zwei Creation fursuits. They got one. They got the one they want. Now, they might go to another creator and go, their life goal of some random furry billionaire out there might be, I want to have one fursuit for me for one of these popular creators, right? There rarely is a furry going to buy multiple fursuits. This one's been since 2013. I don't have interest in buying other ones. There's going to be, so once somebody has bought something like this, the demand is going to go down, especially that kind of high demand. So that's the thing I was talking about auctions earlier, is that auctions are not indicative of true economic balance. What they're indicative of is two people are getting into a fist fight over here, and one of them wants a proof, and they both really want something, and they're both going to cause the price to go really, really high. By the way, the last bid I made on that particular item I showed earlier was well over the previous bidder, because I was like, I know a lot of furries are kind of worried about the coronavirus right now, and I want to try to, kind of like get something for ALS, even though we're trying to preparing to hunker down, because the frickin' convention happened like a week or two before just everything shut down. So it was I'm probably not going to be at MFF this year, so I don't have to hold back for charity at there, because I knew that was probably going to happen. And plus, I kind of like giving to charity at smaller conventions, because a lot of furries usually are pretty giving at MFF because it's near Christmas and all that. But anyways, that's more sidebar than anything. So the issue here is that when it comes to auctions, right, there's people duking it out. And usually it comes down to two people who really want it badly, and that's what happened in this one, is that it was at 24,000 17 minutes before closing, and then there's two people that just got into a fight, right? And it just kind of caused the price to just kind of, blow up to the 50,000 that it ended up being at. So that kind of sustained fight can't last forever, because that, usually when people spend at an auction, they're pretty exhausted, right? They have exhausted some of their resources at the end of the whole thing, and so they can't really get back on the horse with that kind of exuberant spending all the time. Most people can't do that. So that's going to cause, that macro inflation I was talking about, the macroeconomic inflation, to die down a bit, because a lot of that free cash that was just kind of sitting in somebody's pocket is all gone now, right? But it's not all gone. Don't worry, it's all gone. It's all gone, but it's still within the fandom. It's all going to that one fursuit creator who's going to be using that $50,000 to, invest in their business. Some of it they might invest in themselves, but some of it they're going to use to, go to furry conventions, to buy dealer den slots, to buy advertising, and I don't know if they need to advertise, but they're going to use it to, help build their business within the furry community, right? So it's not like it's gone. It's not like it's like, oh, that money's lost. They could have spent it on practical things. It's like people's business is their business, in essence. And that's sort of the thing you learn as you get older. Don't worry about the things you can't have. Worry about, the things that you need, and then worry about the things that you want, and then do those things. Take it slow. You have time, especially the young furries out there. I will say this. I went to my first furry convention in 2011, and I was 26 years old. And I didn't go to my first furry convention until I felt secure. I felt secure enough, and plus somebody invited me, and I'm like, oh, sure, I'll go with you. Somebody I'd known for my whole life, so it's like they invited me to go to a furry convention. It's like, oh, well, the last person I expected to send me to one, but if I go with somebody, it might make it easier for myself to be a little less anxious, and that did help. I'm glad that they did that, and they made me this fursuit on price, of course. But so 2011, right? Was my first furry convention. I was 26 years old. This, I didn't get till 2013, which was 2 years later. And that would be, so I was 28 years old, right? And so now I'm 36. So, in essence, you have time. And I'm very grateful that the order happened in that way. And I'm glad that I waited. I absolutely 100% do not regret waiting. I don't regret waiting because I changed characters multiple times when I was in high school to when I was 25-ish, 24. Like, I was a wolf, and I was a regular kangaroo, kind of regular color, but I didn't have the color scheme down yet. Then I was a black kangaroo for a few years. And mostly my Roo evolution happened on Second Life. And then I became a red kangaroo. And so, as having a red kangaroo, right, I now have a fursuit that I'm happy with because I allowed my character to grow first. And I was solid in my character. I knew the character. I knew the character was going to be wearing a suit. But by the way, this suit I bought in JCPenney in 2009. JCPenney, what the heck is that? What the heck is a JCPenney? Actually, most people probably still know what a JCPenney is. The thing that doesn't exist anymore. But I bought the suit for a funeral, and back in like 2009-ish. So this I had bought before I bought this, but the motif kind of goes with it. So I bought it for the funeral. I bought it flat out. It's like having a good suit is a good thing. I thought it was a good investment, and it was a good investment, right? Because I've used it for my fursuiting, and it works with it. So you think about the things that you have and how to best utilize them. And I think you can get a lot more fulfillment by taking your time. Invest in a character. Invest in a character first. Understand the character that you want to be, and you may change that character. This may not be my final character. Who knows? This may not be my final form. But to me, it kind of is. It's the character I've settled into, it's the character I'm happy with. And I've been working with him as him for a decade. So when it comes to fursuits, having a solid foundation about what character you really want to play, take this time if you're worried about fursuits being too exuberant. Take the time to save up the money. And while you're saving up the money, invest slightly. Don't blow the whole thing, but invest slightly in understanding what character you want to be. Because the worst thing you can do is just throw a lot of money at a fursuit and create a fursuit first, develop it as a character, and then realize 2 or 3 years later that that's not the character you actually are. I'm looking at you, other furry YouTubers. I see you do it. I saw you do it. I saw that you're a strawberry do it. I saw Ada Delota do it. It happens. When you are in college, you are in the thing of change. It's not until you're like, I think, 25-ish or something where you finally start to settle down into the direction that you want to go in life and things like that. So usually your wishing to change characters doesn't happen all that much. Don't get me wrong. I play a bunch of characters all the time, in RPs and fiction and stuff like that. But, there's the one character that I play as in my fursuit I'm comfortable with. And it was, and by 2013 when I created the fursuit, I knew I kind of wanted to do sort of a news shtick because I joined Flair in 2010. I was writing news articles for about 3 years at that point. And I knew that was sort of going to be something that was part of a thing that I would always be doing. So, sort of doing the reporter kind of characterization, kind of developed in that. Allow yourself to grow as a character and utilize when you're finally saying, I'm comfortable, I'm pretty sure I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, then invest in a fursuit. I've not only just the furry YouTubers, but I've seen over a period of time. It's okay to have multiple characters, that's fine too. But having a good solid understanding of your character and what you want to do. Because Beta Delota is still going to be he's still going to have the life jacket character. He's still going to have his Kyle character. He's still going to have, you're still having the Majira Strawberry and the Kyle character. You're still going to have you're still going to have, the duality is fine. That's something that can happen. But I've seen happen also for people who are not famous and just random furries who invested a fursuit of a fox character and then they decide that they're a rabbit and then they want to try to get a rabbit fursuit and then they try to throw money in to get a rabbit fursuit and then that goes nowhere and then they throw the money at someone else to get a rabbit fursuit and then they finally get the rabbit fursuit and then everything closes down because of coronavirus and now they're all anxious because they invested in this fursuit and they're not getting any use out of it and it's money being burned and wasted and they get very anxious about it and it's a hard thing to see and it's a hard thing to it's sort of like a thing. It's don't give up on it. You invested in it, you want to try to utilize it, you want to try to have fun with it and be patient. Patience and fear of missing out, FOMO, is the worst thing. And when many furries talk about worrying about increases of prices of fursuits, I think that that's what they're mostly worried about. Fursuits are a luxury item. It is the very first topic I talked about on this channel, about being a furry without a fursuit. And, I think that we need to be respectful and also be welcoming of people who, have active imaginations and want to engage in those imaginations without a fursuit. And some people will never be able to afford them. Because even, I got lucky in a way where I knew the fursuit maker personally. I worked with them and did those things. I was born in the right place at the right time. In essence, that's the truth. And I was fortunate enough to have the discipline to save up the money to do so. Not everyone's going to have those fortunes, and not everyone's going to have those fortunes that line up so that they can even enjoy a fursuit, even if it's a $500 one or a $50,000 one. Doesn't matter. And, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, have this fear of missing out or fear of not being able to fully enjoy the community or fully engage in the community because they don't have a fursuit. And I think if you slow down and build up the things that you enjoy outside of fursuiting first, and then if you want to pursue it further, you know, get a fursuit if you really, really want one. But take the time to build up the resources, you know, build up a character, and then develop it. I think you'll find that you'll have a lot more enjoyment out of the one fursuit that you get rather than chasing the ones that you cannot. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. Are you worried about fursuit prices going up? I'm going to say it's not just fursuit prices. As I said, the whole macroeconomics thing. House prices are going crazy. Car prices are going crazy. Raw material prices are going crazy right now. It's going to be that way for a bit, until, you know, all the FOMO, throw money at all the money I saved out, all the money we saved up during the coronavirus out there and throwing all that. Some people saved up, I should say. There was more people who were saving up during the coronavirus than spending, you know, because obviously they were staying home and such. But as you know, as the economy starts going up again, all that money that was being saved up is going to be expended, just as normally is. So hold on, we'll see. We'll see how permanent these price increases are, or if it's just going to be a flash in the pan, or if it's going to be something that lasts a few years. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not an economist. I just watch them on YouTube sometimes. All right. Just hold on to your butts, and you know, there's always something to do. Have a goal, reach the dream. Don't fear about missing the dream, because as long as you have it and as long as you work for it, you'll get there eventually.
Follow your dreams. You can meet your goals. I'm living proof. Beefcake, beefcake.
No. Wait. Let's have a South Park reference. Oh well. Have a good one, guys.